We are back on It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati. Lindsay Patterson, Mike Santagata. Mike, what is up?
Nothing. Yeah, we do this one. We did one yesterday. I think this one comes out Friday, but it's Wednesday, so there's not a lot going on from last time I talked. Yeah, I haven't done anything outside of work and this, and getting myself ready for my first article since then. Yeah, no, go see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was a fun movie.
Yeah, go see it. Also exciting stuff because you're coming back to All Bengals. You're going to have your content out soon. And I think people have been waiting since the draft. There's been kind of a dead period after mini camp, and then the Bengals get back to training camp, and not a whole lot to say about training camp right now. And now your content is coming back over on All Bengals, so fans are going to have to go check that out. I know they're going to look forward to it. Also, as always, you can follow Mike over on Twitter, Bengals_stands. But today was joint practice day. And it felt like a pretty exciting, active day out of all the training camp days for the Cincinnati Bengals for all kinds of reasons. I'll start with number one. Everybody wants to know a Joe Burrow update. Zach Taylor did talk to the media today. And I'm going to tell you right now, Zach Taylor is not about to tell anybody a timeline. He is going to go with what he said. He said it twice in a week when asked about the Joe Burrow status, when he'd be back out there. He said several weeks from when I told you. So we are at 12 and a half days, almost at 2 weeks since Joe Burrow left with this calf strain, and Zach Taylor's not going to change his timeline. And I think that's so smart as a head coach. Like I said before, he doesn't know anybody outside of the organization a timeline on it. Everything seems to be going well with Joe Burrow. And the biggest news today when it comes to number 9, he was at practice, not on the golf cart. He rode out on the golf cart, but he was walking around. You could tell he was wanting to be out there and just moving around constantly with the offense. I know Brian Callahan asked him, hey, do you want to call some plays? He's like, nope, I just want to come out here and watch camp today. And I thought that was really huge that Joe Burrow was back out there and he was walking around.
He was, with just a sleeve, no boot.
Yeah. I just feel like it's still kind of around their same timetable, even though we don't know what the several week period meant from when Zach Taylor said that. He keeps saying that. He doesn't just say several weeks from now. He said several weeks from when I told you. It just really feels like what's smart. He's your franchise quarterback. You want to take your time. You want to make sure this guy's fully healthy. If he's fully healthy, he's 100% after hearing from all the other physicians talk about it on Twitter. They are just saying you get him healthy, you don't have that lingering throughout the season, and that's the most important thing. So yeah, Joe Burrow back out there on the sideline watching, not participating yet, to be determined on when he's back out there. But he has been active. He's been, as far as active, watching tape. When the players are usually at camp, he's with the trainers and obviously doing everything possible behind the scenes. But any thoughts on Joe B being at camp?
Yeah, most of my thoughts have just been, let's watch that walk again and let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the slightest limp. It wasn't much though. I every time I see it, I think it's crazy the idea that he's going to be out week 1 when we are still 4 weeks away.
Yeah.
4 weeks and 2 days, I think,
Yep.
away from week 1. He's out there in a sleeve with barely I mean, I don't want to say, you come back when you're 100%. You don't come back at 90% or 95%. You want to come back at 100%. If he misses the first week, it's just, they have had trouble with the Browns. Even when the Browns stunk. It just seemed like the Bengals, they are the better team, but they're just not winning those games. When they went to the Super Bowl, didn't they get... Yeah, they got swept by the Browns.
Yeah, it was bad. That one game, the one they played at Paul Brown Stadium.
Yeah, great opening drive, and then a pick 6, and nothing went right after that. I remember. So it's just, I get that some fans, we are in peak optimism time where this team is going 16-1, if that. But I know some fans are like, oh, they're not losing to the Browns even if Trevor Siemian's out there. I can tell you, I'm nervous if Trevor Siemian's out there. Very nervous.
Yeah.
And I think it hurts. It's not the end of the world, but once you miss 1 game, 2 games, you drop a game to the Browns, or maybe you drop a game in week 2 to the Ravens. That's definitely a tough one. You want to be the 1 seed, right? You want to make Kansas City play that game on the road. Man, once you drop games to teams that you should beat, that starts going out the window. And it's like, well, now we got to beat Buffalo and Kansas City. And maybe you feel like they're going to do that too. I'm not here to stop anybody's optimism. I just think that the chances of going 1-0, 2-0, dramatically different without Burrow. I know that Chase said, like, just come back when you're ready. Week 5. Yeah, man, if it takes till week 5, like, I'm not worried. I'm not too worried about the division. I just think, like, the chance at the 1 seed is really what you have to be worried about. And if you care at all about, like, the Burrow MVP, the Chase Offensive Player of the Year type debates, which I know a ton of people do because I'm on Twitter and that's all anybody argues about. Mm-hmm. Unless you win your conference, you don't win MVP, really. That's about the long and short of it. There's narratives that can be built, but I think if Burrow misses 3-4 weeks, he's pretty much out of the running, and that stinks. But volume stats carry. Your team record will carry. Now, if they go 4-0 or something, then he has a narrative against him, though, because then it's like, well, Trevor Siemian went 4-0 with this roster. Like, why?
They would not go 4-0 with Trevor Siemian.
I agree with you, but I think some people probably do think that's possible.
No, the thing is, I don't even think of it like that right now. We're 4 weeks away, and even if he were to, I mean, I guess I'd be really surprised if it's even 1 game. If it's week 1 right now.
I think if it was a regular season right now,
he'd be playing.
Yeah. Or maybe he would miss a game this Sunday because you want him to get to Harvard. But I just don't see how 4 more weeks when he's just in a sleeve. And we're not doctors, but it's just we've seen injuries like this before. We see guys in boots come back within 3 weeks. It doesn't take them 6 weeks to come back from that injury.
You saw him last year around this time. I mean, he lost so much weight. He was on the golf cart the whole time. He was running sprints or driving sprints on the golf cart. I mean, that made me a little nervous around this time last year. This year, he could have just sat on the golf cart the whole time. And he decided, you know what? I'm going to get up. I'm going to walk around. And if he felt nervous about the way he was walking or if he was trying to hide anything, he wasn't showing it. He was just, hey, I'm here. I want to be here, with this team on the sidelines, with the offense, with different sides of the ball, with the coaches. And I thought that was big that Joe's back out there. If everybody remembers that day, again, it was almost 2 weeks ago. And if you would have told me when all of that happened that night that, hey, you know what, in 12 days, Joe's going to be back on the sidelines, just walking around, watching camp, I'd have been like, okay, I'll take it right now and sign up for it. So I don't know. We don't know kind of, what's going on behind the scenes and as far as, his trainers, how they feel, the outlook. All we know is Zach Taylor keeps saying when he's asked about the timeline, several weeks from when he said it. And it's almost been 2 weeks since Zach Taylor said that.
Several weeks is more than 2 in my mind.
Yep. Oh, for sure. For sure. But even if it was 3 weeks and a lot of people,
the thing is, that could be a 5-week injury and he's still there week 1.
Yeah.
It's just, when I look at the timetable for return on a grade 2 strain, which I think is stretching it a little based off of all the information we have and everything I've read from, doctors on, Twitter, but still, doctors, medical doctors, former team doctors, they all are saying it's probably grade 1, but even if it's a grade 2, they think he plays week 1. So unless you think he fully ruptured the calf, grade 3 type strain, and he's somehow out, never used a boot, wasn't on crutches, he was fine walking the next day, if you just believe whatever, grade 3 strain, that's the way he misses week 1, other than just being super cautious, which I'm fine being cautious, but
sign me up.
You also don't, you run into the problem there of like, yes, we're being cautious, but are you going to throw away a game to be cautious when it's going to come down to what is the strain? We don't know. If it's a grade 1, then I think it's almost a little ridiculous to do that. If it's grade 2, I could see a 1 week absence. Maybe 2 weeks. When I read grade 2 strain online, it said 3 to 6 weeks, and somewhere else said 4 to 8. So maybe if it's the 8 and you're really being cautious, you can miss 2 weeks. Here's the thing. I'm at like a 90, somewhere around there. 90% confidence level of, I think Burrow plays week 1. I think we're making a lot about nothing because there's not much to talk about.
Right now, no, but I would feel there is a sense of optimism in there for Joe Burrow to be back out there. Obviously, just still on the sideline, but still, we're going to move on from this topic. And I feel like the next time we do see Joe Burrow on the field, he's going to have a contract. So there's more optimism. That's a more optimistic feel I'm feeling when it comes to number 9. So we'll stay tuned. We'll give you updates when we get them. But as of now, Joe Burrow on the sidelines at training camp today. I want to stay with the offense, and we'll probably go into our mailbag segment talking about the defense because there was plenty to say on the defensive side of the ball, and I want to make sure we give them more than 4 minutes. Jonah Williams, we talked about him on our podcast yesterday. Again, we're recording back-to-back days this week, so you probably heard us talk a little bit about the offensive line yesterday, but right now it feels like Jonah Williams, maybe
running away.
It's a landslide right now. It's a landslide.
When and we're not there. I don't think either one of us. You didn't go to the train.
No.
Yeah, I assume not, and I'm not driving 5 hours to do that.
I don't think you.
Yeah, 10 hours of driving for a practice. Yeah. But I'm using Joe Goodberry as my reference, and it just seems so much like every time he tweeted Jonah Williams, it was Jonah Williams did a good job there, and then Jackson Carman's in with the 2s. And losing to Lucas Van Ness or whoever their backup edge rusher was while Jonah Williams was winning against Preston Brown. I know that I don't think you can call it until at least after a preseason game. So we're going to see what happens. I'm walking back a little bit. He might just leave with the starters. He might not play much because I think this is pretty decided unless he looks bad. Unless he goes out there, he looks bad in that preseason game. If he goes out there, he looks solid. I think we might just be ready to call it. But I don't know. We've also been predicting that Jonah Williams would win that job, but yeah, it doesn't seem like too big of a competition right now.
Speaking of the preseason, because this is our last podcast until they do play the Packers, it really sounded like Zach Taylor, which we kind of knew going into preseason game number 1. It's more of preseason number 2 that you'll see more of the starters getting reps out there. But it just sounds like for him, the majority of the starters will not see the field on Friday night. It's going to be a lot of the younger guys and pretty predictable guys who are trying to make the roster right now. In the back half of the position group rooms. That really didn't seem too surprising from Zach Taylor. No, he did talk when training camp started that he did want the starters to get some reps in preseason, but I feel like we're going to see that more in game 2. And Friday night's just going to be about rookies and guys who are trying to win a job right now.
Yeah, they're more siding with you than me. They're like rest of those guys. Where I was saying like, yeah, maybe give them a few snaps together because I remember how slow everything started last year, but yeah, I understand the argument for both. Maybe I am reacting too much to the start last year. And a lot of the start last year was a lot of new guys and not knowing how to use them and Burrow starting sluggish. So defense was great last year to start out. So I could be reacting too much. I just think as long as you escape without injury, there is a benefit to having their guys play a few snaps because it is the closest thing you'll get to a real NFL game is the preseason game. Even these joint practices, they're not the same level.
It's easy to look back on that week 1 game because that game meant a lot at the end of the season. I think a lot of people thought, well, what if that game, it ends up meaning, home field or it means this or that or the seeding purposes for the playoffs? And it did. It would have been a huge deal for the NFL and the decisions they would have had to make. I know it was kind of like the coin flip decision and Kansas City was going to run away with it. It just pretty much felt like it was Kansas City's to lose because of not having, obviously not the Bills and Bengals game, but
the Chiefs, they had to, no matter what, the Chiefs had to lose to like the Raiders or something.
Yeah.
So I was never at the point where I was like, we're getting screwed. It's more like, wish we were able to host the Bills in round 2 rather than the other way around.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that ended up working out just fine. But as far as that thing, but me more so like on the Bengals side, it hurt them losing to the Steelers when it comes
losing to the Steelers. First 2 games, that was the biggest. You lose to Mitch Trubisky and Cooper Rush, and it's kind of what I'm talking about this year. When you drop those games and they play Watson week 1 in a game, I think they should win.
They should,
even though the Browns are the Browns are probably more talented than the Steelers were at the start of last year.
I would say so, but I like the Steelers defense.
Yeah,
I truly do.
I mean, the Steelers defense is just better than whatever the Browns are going to do, even with Jim Schwartz. Yeah. But anyway, let's ignore that and just say it's probably a similar level team in my mind, like 9-8 type team. You can't go out and blow that game. You can't go out and drop that game, and then now you're walking the tightrope, and then you drop another game. They seem to drop at least one of these games. Let's only drop one game that they should win this year. Let's not have Mike White and have all these other games. Let's not have a Cooper Rush and a Mitch Trubisky game and a Jacoby Brissett game. Well, really hoping that they can go out there, because at some point I feel like they win a majority of the games that are like coin flips. And does that ever change? Maybe. They play up to their opponents. They give them a good game and they win a lot of these games, especially in the regular season. The main one I'm thinking that they lost were the 49ers and the Chargers 2 years ago. Last year, I mean, they basically won every game that was like, oh, this is a close one.
Yeah.
Who knows who's going to win? They won. Other than the Ravens game, I think the Ravens was the one game that you could drop that and be like, okay, I mean, that's a playoff team. But anyway, long-winded way to say, if you want the 1 seed, you got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And I think that's what it is week 1. So that's one reason I think you would hope that Burrow is out there and not bank on, Trevor Siemian's fine, because last thing before we wrap up the segment, over or under 50% chance the Bengals win week 1 with Trevor Siemian in Cleveland?
I don't want to imagine it. I don't. And no, Jake Browning wouldn't be better. I would feel sick, actually. The only thing I can think that would be a positive about it is I don't have to see Myles Garrett try to get near Joe Burrow.
Sure.
But I feel a little more confident in the offensive line that shouldn't happen. I wouldn't feel good about it. I would say they would drop the game with Trevor Siemian. Sorry. I mean, they have
I don't feel confident enough to say they would drop the game, but I do think I might favor Cleveland in that scenario.
Yeah, I think that would be an easy thing to say. I mean, I feel like this defense, which we're going to get to in our next segment, we're going to wrap this up, is going to be better than what it was last year. And I know a lot of people are going to freak out, like, you can't say that because of the safety position. But I am. And that might be a hot take going into the season, but I feel really good about it. And just the way they're kind of ramping up on the defensive side of the ball, these guys are ready. They're ready to be out there right now. And some of the comments by Jermaine Pratt I want to get to next on It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati. So we are back on It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati. Going to get to some of your mailbag questions. I know you guys sent some last week and this week. We'll combine 2. But let's keep with the defense right now. Jermaine Pratt was speaking to the media after training camp today. They had the joint practice with the Packers. Got a little heated out there. And just some of the things before we get to some of the what do we want to call it? The fighting?
The
Scuffle. Nothing too crazy, but some scuffle going on with the Green Bay Packers. Jermaine Pratt made a comment, and it actually made me think. And he was just talking about, hey, they were a top 10 defense last year. There's like a lot of confidence coming from the defensive side of the ball that this could be a top 5 unit. I know there are question marks about the safety position. You have to hear that all the time, especially on the outside national media. How are you going to win without Jesse Bates and Von Bell at your safety position? I feel like they got stronger on the defensive line, and I think that's something that we should really be focusing on when it comes to rotating the different guys that they're going to be able to put out there, and it's going to be fun. Something that was kind of a weakness for them, where all their money was going, and they couldn't put the pressure or get to the quarterback. And I think that's going to help their secondary overall going into the 2023 season. But what do you think about that? Do you think this unit could be top 5 in the NFL?
Could, sure. I wouldn't predict it. Yeah. I just think they're going to start slower. And that's part of the reason that from the last segment, I mentioned I might favor the Browns, not by much, but I might favor them a tiny bit, 0.5 point, 1 point, 40% confidence the Bengals could win that game, or will win that game, not could, but will win that game. Is partly because I think it's going to start a little slow for the Bengals defense. I don't think that means they're going to be terrible. I just think it's going to be a little bit worse than we're used to. And they've always kind of been more of a postseason unit than a regular season unit. But yeah, my thoughts on it are I think they're going to be too up and down to be top 5. Could it happen? Certainly. And I think that would involve my guy, Nick Scott, showing up in a big way and Dax Hill playing extremely well, even though this is essentially his rookie year. I think there's a way it happens, but I think it's more likely we're looking at a fringe top 10 unit in the regular season that's catching its stride in the playoffs.
All right. Well, to be determined on what that looks like. And I think it's going to take just a little bit for the guys to get in the swing of things and Nick Scott and Dax Hill out there in the starting role. And who knows how they're going to feel in that first game. I'm sure there's a little bit of game day nerves when you're out there for the first time. It's different than a preseason game, even if they do get preseason reps, what that looks like on the road in Cleveland. So we'll see what the defensive side of the ball looks like. But overall, I think I mentioned it early on in the podcast. And look, they've only been at training camp for less than 2 weeks right now. So we only have some of the videotapes out there. And this offense has Trevor Siemian and Jake Browning, and not having Joe Burrow is a difference maker. But overall, it really feels like the defense is starting to pick things up. Trey Hendrickson had himself a day against the Green Bay Packers, and that's really exciting because, as I mentioned before, just the D-line overall, I have confidence that it's going to be better. Not to say that it was terrible or anything like that in the league, but they have to be better. There's a lot of money there, and I want to see that out of Trey Hendrickson and the rest of the guys. But what did you think overall with some of the stuff coming out of camp today from the joint practice?
The main thing I think I heard about the defense was dominant outside of one deep ball where DJ Turner lost to Romeo Doubs. And I didn't watch it. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. It's like, well, they said he lost, but it was actually supposed to have safety help, whatever else. All I'm saying, one deep shot was given up. And other than that, it seemed like the Bengals defense was dominant. They were forcing a lot of check downs. The run game went nowhere. I have my one tweet that I was following, Sam Monson from PFF, a friend of the show, DJ Reader ruining virtually every run play. Obviously.
We love it. We love it.
Yeah. And then I saw multiple people say, like, Trey Hendrickson was a monster with pressure and some sacks, but you can't really sack. DJ Reader had had at least one sack, according to something I saw. So it just seemed like this Bengals defense just dominant unit. Does that mean the Packers offense is bad? No, not really. It just means I think Lou cooks a little in the preseason for whatever, or these practices for whatever reason. I always am seeing him blitz or run these creepers or simulated pressures or all this funky stuff rather than just like, let's just throw 4 and see how the boys do. It's like, we're going to send the nickel and loop the Mike, that's right, Mike and middle linebacker, whatever, around him and get this pressure. It just, it doesn't seem like fun for the offense whenever they're playing against, and that includes the Bengals offense when they're playing against Lou Anarumo and this defense. So they had a good day, and it sounded like DJ Reader and Trey Hendrickson were standouts. I also heard DJ Turner had a really good day other than that one.
Yeah, PFF, the guys joked. Some of the PFF guys were there, and they're really big on DJ Turner. I think one of them said, I would give him a 98 grade right now.
They're not actually grading the practice?
Who knows?
Every player, every snap.
Did you know you can bet on preseason games? Like, that's where we're at right now in the NFL. I mean, that's absolutely insane to me.
I would never do it.
Never.
If you're betting on a preseason game, honestly,
I mean,
there's charities out there that need money.
You just go ahead and donate your money to the app,
or at least just go to a real casino. Like,
it's absolutely just crazy to me. But yes, you can do that, and I don't.
That said, are you taking the over or the under for the Bengals Packers preseason odds?
I think I'm gonna take the under. I think I'm gonna take the under. That one time,
the best bets from Sports Illustrated for the Bengals Packers preseason game.
Give me some right now.
The Packers are favored by 4.5.
I could probably see that.
Yeah, I mean,
they'll probably be. They're playing their starters. Some of their starters.
Oh, are they? They should win.
Well, they should be.
Let's see. In other words, Green Bay and Cincinnati are simply on different levels in terms of where they stand heading into the 23-24 season, with Love and company having much to play for. Our Packers versus Bengals pick is against the spread on Green Bay at 4. So they're saying take the Packers at -4.5.
I think that's wild that you can actually do that. I just
And that there's analysis on it. Like somebody's getting paid to write articles about like who should you bet on.
My favorite thing, I was telling you, it was last year because I don't do it that much, and if I do it on FanDuel, I'm betting like $1 or $2, nothing too crazy, and I'm probably doing it like one time a weekend, if it's an NFL game or when there's some MLB games. But I remember last year, right when we were doing the pod, I think we talked about it, maybe off there or on it, and we were talking about some of the bets. I'm like, first time touchdown, Trenton Irwin, free bet money, and I was gonna put money on it. It was actually the you made that one.
I made one bet, and it involved a Hayden Hurst first time touchdown in the AFC Championship game, and he dropped it.
I mean,
you know what the odds are on that? It was like plus 5,000. Like nobody was saying take Hayden Hurst on that. He had 2 touchdowns all year or something like that.
That's why Zach Taylor said, "Let's go to Hayden. Let's go to Hayden first." But yeah, unfortunately, that didn't work out for you. But we'll get to your mailbag questions. Lots of good questions, and we'll get to UK Cincinnati fan. He said there are a lot of teams trying to turn running backs into weapons. They can line them up in the slot like Christian McCaffrey. Are you a believer that will be a successful evolution of running backs?
No, not really, because I just think wide receivers are better at that. This is something to me that every training camp we go through and every draft season we go through, and we went through this with Chris Evans. Mm-hmm. The idea that a running back will also just play wide receiver, that like there's a lot of wide receiver. Trent Irwin was a practice squad guy mm-hmm. before last year. Like you have to be really good to actually play wide receiver in the NFL. I don't know. I don't see it. And I think this is why you get all the hype. You get the one-on-ones where they're running a triple move and they beat a linebacker and everybody gets excited. How many guys line up and will like run real stuff? I remember one mix-and dig route, like a 12-yard in, maybe they call that a basic, whatever, but a mix and 12-yard in route. And I think that might have been the only route he ran that was like a real, not just a go or a hitch when he was lined up at wide receiver. Other than that, like that's what you run. Or then you have a running back route tree from the backfield and from offset and wherever else. But yeah, majority of running backs routes are just run deep so that somebody has to run after you, or stay here so that if somebody goes after a wide receiver, we could just dump it off to you and you'll have space to run. I don't know. Personally, that's where I am on it. I think that's why Chris Evans got all that hype and it hasn't turned out, is because like he's not a wide receiver. Even if he can move well, he's not a wide receiver. He's still a running back that's just kind of out there. When he went out there and he was like a 5'9" guy and they threw a slot fade to him against the Dolphins, I was in the stands just going like, we don't have to do this.
No.
Put a real receiver in there.
What do you think? Speaking of Chris Evans, what do you think his numbers are on Friday night? I don't even know if he's still on the team. To be completely
play a lot, right? He'll probably play a lot.
He probably would play a lot, but do you think he give me the yards, give me the numbers for Chris Evans?
6 for 20, but with a 43-yard run called back for a holding call.
Definitely a holding call on Max Sharping. And I will say that he will have a touchdown, Chris Evans.
Yes, that's the one that's called back.
Oh, the touchdown. Yeah. I do think that the Chris Evans hype will be real for one night. I think it's going to come back for a little bit, and then the spark will die down for the next preseason game because this is going to be his game. This is his Christmas.
He's an interesting player. He ran a stutter go against the Lions in the regular season his rookie year and he got matched up with a linebacker, beat him deep, scored a touchdown. And it's like, I just think once you run something like, I feel like you're going to get like people are actually going to pay attention. They're not going to put the Alex Anzalone on you after that. Like, oh, okay. So we can't just, waste a linebacker over there. We have to actually cover that guy.
Yeah. You know what? Hopefully Chris Evans does have himself a night, because if he's not going to be in Cincinnati, I hope he goes and plays on another team.
Yeah, I hope he gets a deal somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably not in Cincinnati, but
yeah, I think
we're rooting for him.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him. Go and have yourself a Friday night, get some good tape, and maybe lean on another team. David Speakman says, are we going to be more creative with short yardage?
I hope so, mainly because if I see more 2nd and 1, 2nd and inches quarterback sneaks, I'm going to go crazy. That just signals to me like that is such a shot play area. And you have one of the best quarterbacks and, in my opinion, the best wide receiver group. How are you running a quarterback sneak where the ceiling of that is 3 yards? Like that's the most you're going to get out of it. Midfield, run a quarterback sneak. We got to keep the chains moving. That's a 4th and inches play. You should feel 95, 98% confident about your quarterback sneak picking up inches. That's why you 2nd and 1, 2nd inches is such a shot play territory.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you that, and anytime they do that stuff, it makes me nervous in general, just even going over the last couple of years. Vienna Jeff says, how many guys who get cut will get claimed before we can even get them on the practice squad?
Oh, that doesn't happen super often. Only one guy last year from what I remember.
No, and I think that if they feel confident, like, hey, we do not want to put this person or even try and cut them loose and hope they can come back to us on the practice squad, they won't do that on this roster. I think it's just going to be like, hey, we don't have room for you. We feel good about our depth. We obviously have our starters. And if we get you back, we get you back, but nothing too crazy. It's not like we're going to see one of the draft picks. I don't think we're going to see one of the draft picks.
Do you think Ivy makes the team then? I think he's still on the bubble, even after a good training camp. It's tough because there's a lot of corners.
It is tough. It is tough in the cornerback room.
I do think you've got a better shot at getting Jalen Davis on your practice squad than you do DJ Ivy.
Yeah, because DJ Ivy is going to put a lot of tape out there in these preseason games.
I just also think age, like there's something exciting about a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Yossi Voss, if he gets cut, he's
gone.
80-90% chance he's gone. Like
he's a wide receiver one on some of these teams.
Oh my God. I'm joking. Hey, you never know.
I'm joking.
But yeah, like the main guy I could think of could get cut, and I think he would probably get picked up. Maybe a few guys, but one I'm thinking of would be Jay Tufele.
Yeah.
And that's how they got him, was he got cut and then the Bengals picked him up. If he gets cut, I think somebody could put in the waiver claim and pick him up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I just feel like if they cut ties with someone, it's just going to be like, look, we have too many guys at this position, and we feel pretty good about our depth, and maybe they'll see something new in the cornerback room. And like I've said it in general, when it comes to the secondary and the corners, stack them all up. It's really important when you get into those games in January, and if you make it to the postseason again, you want to have all the depth in the world at that position and on your offensive line. So yeah, I feel like they'll have some tough decisions to make, because I actually do feel good about the depth right now overall in a lot of the position groups. But yeah, Andre's not going anywhere. He's going to
I agree with you. I think there's a small chance it could happen, but I don't see it. I'd feel more worried if it was Marvin Lewis.
Marvin Lewis, man. Sheesh. But we'll move on to more of your Twitter questions. Again, you can follow along Bengals_Sands. You can follow me at Ellen Diaz Patterson. And thank you for listening to It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati. We are back on It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati, going through some of your mailbag questions from the last 2 weeks. We'll go to Jason. He says, how has Dax looked so far in camp? Is the lack of either safety making any highlights cause for any concern?
No, I've talked a lot about that. I'm not concerned yet. It's practice. They're safeties. I think safeties aren't as inclined to make highlight plays for the most part. Maybe in 11s, but not one-on-ones. And that's where you're getting some of these highlights with Cam Taylor-Britt and the guys is one-on-ones, and they're corners. They're corners covering these guys. Like, that's expected. Safeties, they're not typically asked to do that. Now, Dax Hill a little bit, maybe, because he play a lot of nickel. But anyway, I'm not concerned. Are you concerned at all? Maybe I'm too laissez-faire with this.
I'm not, but here's my answer to all of that. When people say, hey, I'm seeing all these highlights from the wide receiver group, I'm seeing all this from the offense.
It's a heck of a wide receiver group.
It's a heck of a wide receiver group, one. But so say you're on your Twitter page and you're at Bengals training camp. Do I want to snip a clip of Dax Hill? No offense to the defense. Sorry, defense. But do I want to get a clip of Dax Hill or one of the safeties or other corners making a play? Or do I want to highlight that Jamar Chase or T. Higgins just had an incredible grab? I'm going to probably clip the one that I'm like, oh, this is what people want to see. They want to see Jamar Chase. They want to see T. Higgins. They want to see Tyler Boyd making those highlights in the plays. And sometimes you're going to see the secondary get beat. But overall, I have no concerns over it. I just don't think we see much from it. And look, it might take a minute for Dax Hill to be out there. This is his real first year on the field as the starter in that role. So I hope we have a little bit of patience with that. We're probably going to see, a little bit of miscommunication on the defensive side of the ball for a minute. When you have Jesse Bates and Von Bell out there for multiple years, they're used to that chemistry and working together. So it's going to happen. And I just really hope people don't get down on him so early. And maybe he'll show everyone like, look, I'm great. I'm not messing up or anything like that, but it's going to happen. And I'm just not down on Dax Hill. I feel like a lot of people gave up on him. It was really odd in his rookie year when he was never really out there. So I'm confident in Dax, and we'll get to see him soon and see what that looks like in a regular season game. We will go to Harry. He says, how does the Bengals O-line depth compare to other teams around the league?
I think it's comparable. I don't know. I don't look too hard into. I firmly believe you need to have one good swing tackle and one good interior guy. And if you don't have a swing tackle, you can have one pretty good backup at each spot if you just don't have a guy that does it. I think the Bengals have that while it's healthy. And then with the interior guy, it's however you feel about Sharping. I think that's he's not a terrible backup interior offensive lineman. You're just hoping it's not too long. I feel like it's fine compared to the rest of the league. I don't think it's low. I don't think it's bad. I think if they go down a guy, it makes sense who they throw in there. So I don't think I felt that way 2 years ago. And last year I felt okay about it until they lost 3 guys. And I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah, and it always makes you wonder. I know we go back to it too many times, but if they don't lose Alex Kappa in that Ravens game, what the AFC Championship game could have looked like for the offensive line. We will move on. David, this is a contract extension comment, and I just wanted to bring it up because, again, it's August 9th as we're recording this. I'm not fearing too much right now, especially when it comes to Joe Burrow, but we'll bring it up. He says, why are the extensions taking so long? No other team seems to have this problem.
What? I still think you're paying attention to other teams. Justin Jefferson's extension eligible, for example.
I'll tell you right now, look up when Patrick Mahomes signed his extension. Look up when Josh Allen signed his extension. Look up when a majority of these franchise guys outside of Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert, when they sign their contracts. Most of that stuff happens at the end of training camp going into the first week of September. These conversations have been behind the scenes and they're still quiet on August 9th. When you hear Ian Rappaport talk about Joe Burrow's extension, he's pretty much guessing everything that's happening. He has no concrete news. And I'm just like, that feels like good news to me. And maybe I'm optimistic about it, but I just feel like, and I will say that when he sent this question last week, Logan Wilson's extension happened the next day. So you never know what could happen. We're recording on a Wednesday. It's our last podcast till next Tuesday. Could there be extension news? Maybe, but I feel like I don't know. Maybe I'm not too concerned about it. I don't know. Am I too optimistic?
No, to me, I think it's relaxed. I think everybody has to relax on this. I'm not concerned until I need to be. It's just, these are extension talks. They'll go. It's kind of like, well, and maybe you should be concerned. I don't know. If you want to worry. If you don't. Because it's just, we live in such an age, and I've complained about this before, is my old man take, even though I'm not super old yet. But, my take is just, we live in such an age right now that is immediate information. It is like every day that we go by and these guys aren't extended is 10 years off of my life. Just relax. I mean, what? 10 years ago, you wouldn't get crap for one of these guys getting extended. I don't know.
I don't know when. I don't know.
No idea. Oh, that guy's extension eligible?
It's funny. There are people out there, not Bengals fans, but just like fans of other teams. They're like, they're not even going to get Chase done. I'm like, they can't get Chase done. It's not possible. It's just, I don't know. The extension stuff, I felt like the Logan Wilson stuff was a nice surprise to get done last Friday. I like the pay. I don't even know how to say it with Joe Mixon, but they made some extra money. They were able to give Trey Hendrickson a 1 year additional extension. I don't know. I've been okay with what the front office has been able to do. I would love for them to be able to extend T. Higgins along with Joe Burrow, but I mean, obviously the main focus right now is getting your franchise quarterback done, and maybe they'll get T. Higgins done before it. But it's on August 9th. I feel fine. I feel totally fine, and it's different than the Jesse Bates situation. It's a different position too. So I don't know. That's just how I feel right now. Maybe I should be concerned, but I'm not.
With you. No, I'm with you.
We'll go to Andrew Russell. He says, how and where are the explosive plays going to come from in the offense, assuming they see as much as too high as they saw last season?
Yeah, so I think these plays come off of, this has been my take the entire time. I think you'll have to come to, look, this is a shotgun team now. I think you have to get a good play action game on your shotgun runs. Yeah. You've got the efficiency and the success rate of your shotgun runs down. I mean, you're top 3 after you switch to the shotgun run game in run game efficiency, which is shocking, I think, to Bengals fans to hear that, like, the run game was one of the 3 most efficient run games in the league. It's like, no, I don't know that. They were the kings of 5-yard gains, Ryan and Mixon. But yeah, I think that if you can find a way to work a play action game with that's actually effective and can take shot plays off of it, golden. The other part of it would be if your offensive line can give you enough time to work real plays down the field that aren't go balls. I think that's the other one. So those are my 2 thoughts on it. And then the third one is just, you hope, and he hasn't shown up a ton in training camp. Chase Brown just being lightning in a bottle, just catching that once in a while during a drive. Just he has home run speed. Can you get him to just show that once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever else?
I want to go back to Chase Brown. We talked about this. Oh goodness, it's been almost 4 months ago, less than 4 months ago since the draft, and the Bengals drafted him. When it comes to his play, because I feel like there was mixed reviews when the Bengals drafted him as far as his blocking ability. Where are you at with the blocking for Chase Brown?
I have no idea. His blocking, his pass protection?
Yeah.
I don't think he has that job. I think that's Travion Williams' job, everything I've heard.
You don't think that he has, because it felt like what's his face? I'm losing my Daniel Jeremiah when he was doing like a draft profile on Chase Brown that he felt pretty good about.
I think that Chase Brown has the intelligence and the processing and the want to. And those are your most important things. I think he's also a project there, and that's all of his technical areas with blocking. It's just, I think when you're moving at NFL speed against NFL players, I think the pass protection is going to make a lot of sense when they come out there and Travion Williams is the 3rd down back week 1. It's just, that's where I am on it, because I just saw too many college guys. He'd get to the right spot and lose, and you want him to get to the right spot and win.
Yeah.
So that's where I am on it.
I'm totally fine with that. And I'm optimistic about Travion. He'll be out there. And as of now, he's still kind of a week-to-week situation, but he's probably just not going to see preseason. But to be determined on when he's full go. Taylor Kyles, he covers the Patriots. I thought this was funny. He said, how much for Jonah?
I think he's playing pretty well, right? Are they willing to send the 3rd?
It's going to be pricey. Blank check.
I mean, we were willing to take like a 4th. I think it would at least be up to a 3rd now, and it's the Bengals. Mm-hmm. It really feels like they're going to ask for a 2, and nobody's going to give that to them.
No, I mean, I don't blame them.
But I would ask for I would open up with asking for a 3rd. Just like, if you want to send a 3rd round pick, or a player you could steal from them would also be interesting. Like, what player are we? Do you have some depth somewhere that we could take I can't think of a similar level player. So my mind was like, guys I want. Well, they're a little better than Jonah. They're probably not in the last year of their deal either.
No. Look, I think this is going to be, if he can stay healthy, and look, this, you guys will remind me if I'm wrong. I feel like this is just such a big year for him, and he dominates. I just feel like he's gonna play well, and even if he doesn't dominate and he's a average or above, I'm okay with that at right tackle. Did anybody watch this offensive line since Joe Burrow was drafted? I think they would take that in a heartbeat. So no, Jonah isn't available right now. Maybe in the future, to be determined. We'll see what happens there. Nick says something confidence meter on T. Higgins resigning now that we're on to week 2 of training camp.
50-50. I think I've been at 50-50 since last year.
Yeah,
I've fluctuated a little sometimes. You hear some news or something, and like I kind of buy into it, and I'll go up to like 60. But I feel like I'm at 50-50. I'm just like, he might sign, he might not. I don't think that there's anything crazy going on.
I think they could go into the season with T. Higgins with no extension, but T. Higgins is on the roster in 2024. That's what I'll say.
Oh, fully agree.
I am still very confident they do not want to make another team better with the talent that they've drafted. They love T. Higgins, and to T's credit, he's been here for everything. The majority of the offseason program, he's still been at training camp. Still with the group of guys. He wants to be there. He doesn't have contract extension at all. And I just truly feel, and it's kind of hard for rookies outside of, especially the first round picks, to sit out on their rookie deal. And if they're trying to get an extension, but I just think overall, if he does not sign, or if they do not get an extension done, which they could, it's August 9th right now. And if they'll franchise him. I truly feel that way. We will go.
They're gonna. Do you think they franchise tag him a second time if it came down to it? Me too.
But then at the end of the day, they could have.
And it might be a tag and trade, but I don't think they're gonna just.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. T. See ya.
I think he's going to be on the roster in 2024. I'll just say that. I think he's going to be on the roster in 2024. And I could be wrong. That's all I got. Vikram says, thoughts on Myles Murphy. What do you expect to see out of him during the preseason to make you feel comfortable with our D-line depth?
My thoughts on him are I like him a lot as a prospect, but I think he's raw. I think it's just there's a lot that he needs to improve on, and I don't expect it this year. That would be my thoughts. I'm hoping for some production and flashes, and then next year is when he could take the leap. I don't think if you could play him on run downs, I think that'd be huge for this team, though. I think they have a lot of guys that can rush the passer. Well, not a lot of guys that can really rush the passer, but you've got Audacy and you've got Hendrickson and Hubbard, and well, that might be it. But
yeah,
maybe somebody else takes a step or something, but. I just think that the rundowns would be important, not in terms of there's so many guys to rush the passer. I shouldn't have said that. But in terms of let's keep Hendrickson fresh and let's take some reps off of him. So maybe you get Murphy in for some of those early down stuff, or when a team wants to establish it or something, you just let's get Murphy in there and let Trey breathe a little bit. And then when that doesn't work, let's put Trey in. When that doesn't work for them, when the run game doesn't work for them, now let's flip it in. Let's put Trey in there and let him rush. Let's let him go crazy.
And I think that'd be good for Myles Murphy. You're kind of easing him in there, and he's not a full-time starter or anything like that. Don't expect this guy to go out and get 8 sacks or anything like that in his rookie year. Have a little bit of patience, like you should have with Dax Hill in his rookie year, but he'll still get more reps. Myles Murphy. And I'm excited for Trey to get some plays off because that guy goes full go. I think a lot of people forget he was playing with a broken hand the majority of the second half of the season last year. And that was just absolutely insane to me. So I'm okay with him getting some time off. But if he can
the year before he was injured too.
Yeah, so it's just extremely important to just watch that. And if you can have the rotation with Myles Murphy, that's going to be awesome. One more question because we do have to wrap up, but I feel like you will like this one. Now that you've been to Cedar Point, what roller coasters are Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow?
Oh, my God. Let's see. Okay. My gut instinct, and these could be wildly wrong, but I want to say that Joe Burrow is the gatekeeper. because it's the
the
first one you see. It's you go to Cedar Point. It's right in front of the front gate. That's how it gets its name. It's my second favorite. So I guess DJ Reader is the Raptor, since that's my favorite one. So, and most people don't have it as the best one at the park. Yeah, it perfectly fits. That's DJ Reader. He's the Raptor. Nobody asked. But Burrow's the gatekeeper. It's my second favorite ride there. It's super cool. It's at the front of the park. Top Thrill's gone, because that kind of maybe would have been my answer for Jamar Chase. It's like Top Thrill Dragster, explosive. He's gonna blow up. And then they lost on screw. It fell out and I guess hit somebody. So they're redoing it. So I will say, the Maverick. The Maverick is Jamar Chase. Oh, something fell. Don't worry about it. The Maverick is Jamar Chase. Love that ride. It's based on a horse. And there's a part where it stops in the middle of the ride and then fires back out at like 60 miles per hour. And you're just, back doing flips and whatever. So those are the two.
All right, I love it. I've never been to Cedar Point, but I'm going to take your word for it.
Great. You have to go. Wow.
I know. I only have Kings Island here. They're owned
by the same people.
I know. But if you're going to Cedar Point, make sure you check out the Joe Burrow and the Jamar Chase roller coaster and the DJ Reader one, which I think is perfect. But as we mentioned before when we started this podcast, you are going to have some content coming soon over on All Bengals as we ramp up into preseason. That's going to be coming up after the preseason game.
Yeah, I think the preseason game, and I'm going to write an article based off of what happens in that preseason game. And then I'm hoping to have the offense review article out. And we'll see if I have time for the defensive review. Man, this stuff just takes time, right?
Sorry. It's all every day. Eat, sleep.
I spend too much time watching. If it was making fun of me, I'd be like watching the Texans or
I know.
Colts.
I love the NFL as much as anyone, and I'll watch it on bye weekends. But you will not.
I was curious. So the main thing was I was skipping all the wide receivers. I just wanted to watch the offensive line for the Texans. This is how we get there. But I wanted to watch Laramie Tunsil because he's a great left tackle. And then I was like, I liked Kenyon Green coming out. How's that going?
Good for you.
Watch 4 games of the Texans.
Good for you. Keep up that work. If you have a passion, you want to watch the NFL teams.
It helped. Damian Lewis, left guard for the Seahawks, available free agent next year. I'm in. Also, Jonah Jackson for the Lions, left guard, free agent. I watched both those guys. They're both good. So if the Bengals want to make a move at left guard, I've got 2 guys on the list for next year.
Don't worry. I'm sure those. Hopefully it doesn't. Cordell Wilson's going to light it up, and they're not.
He just lines up and he dominates.
But yeah, just in case. Good stuff. Make sure you follow along. You can follow his Twitter page at Bengals_Sands. I almost forgot it. Or you can follow me at LNDS Patterson. And thank you for listening to It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati.